Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a little girl who lived with her mommy and her daddy and her little brother Timmy in a big blue house on the edge of the forest at the end of a long gravel driveway. And one thing the little girl looked forward to every day was when the mail would come. You see, when the mail came, the mommy and the little brother and the little girl would get to go on an adventure. And so she would watch out the window to the end of the driveway, watching for the mail car to pass the end. And then it would be time to go on the adventure. And so they would get the red wagon where the little brother would ride, and the little girl had a yellow bucket with a braided white handle, and she would carry her bucket, and they would set off on the grand adventure. You see, it was a whole quarter of a mile all the way to the mailbox. And as they would go, the little girl imagined that she was on a treasure hunt. And she would look very carefully at all of the rocks as they walked. And sometimes she would find a rock that was a special shape. Sometimes she would find a red rock that was jasper. Sometimes she would find a green rock. That was Oregon jade. The most special rocks of all were the agates. Agates are kind of a white rock that if you hold it up to the light will shine through it. And those rocks can also have a little reddish color, orange color. And one day as they were walking, she saw it. It was next to the creek, and as she leaned over and picked it up, she knew it was the most special agate she had ever found. It was beautiful, and she carefully put it in her bucket. And as they finished their walk and came back to her house, she went into her bedroom and she laid out all of her treasures from that day, and that one special agate just glowed at her on her bedspread. And she put her rocks in her special jars, and she was so happy that she had found this most beautiful treasure of all times. Well, one day there was a knock on the front door. Knock, knock, knock. And the mommy opened the door, and there was a lady standing there. The lady looked very sad. The little girl could tell that she had been crying. And the mommy invited the lady to come and sit in the corner of her dining room and have a cup of tea. And as the mommy put the red and white checked placemat on the table and went to warm the orange tea kettle to prepare the tea, she told the little boy and the little girl, "Why don't you go play outside while I talk to my friend?" And as they went outside, the little girl's heart was touched. This lady, she was so sad. Was there anything the little girl could do to help her? And as they were outside playing, they looked for frogs by the creek, they fed the goat, they threw balls for the dog. The little girl just kept thinking and thinking, was there anything she could do to help this very sad lady? Well, then she remembered what she had. You see, she didn't have any money, and she couldn't drive a car. She couldn't go to town and buy something, and she really couldn't write very well yet, so she couldn't make her a special card. And, well, it wasn't springtime, and there weren't any flowers to pick. But then she remembered what she did have. And so she went in the back door, and she went to her room, and she looked at her special jar that was full of her treasures, and she poured it out, and she searched through until she found that one special treasure, this most beautiful rock of them all. And she took it in her little hand, and she went to the dining room where the lady was sitting in the corner, and she held it in her hand, and she said, "Lady, may I give you something?" And the lady looked down at her and said, "Of course, honey. What do you have?" And the little girl opened her hand, and there was her greatest treasure of all. And the lady took a look at the rock, and she looked at the mom, and she looked at the little girl, and she said, "Oh, honey, thank you so much for sharing that with me." And the little girl looked at her mommy, and she said, "Mommy, did I write in the corner?" And the mommy said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, the lady is sad, and she's sitting right in the corner. And the song that we listen to all the time says, right in the corner where you are, you can share Jesus." And the mommy and the lady laughed a little bit, and the mommy said, well, that song, honey, really does say, brighten the corner where you are. But it is right in the corner. And yes, honey, you have brightened this corner for this lady today by giving her the best of what you had. And as this little girl has grown up, that song has remained and continues to be her mission statement. You see, all of us have the opportunity to make a difference in the world. Maybe it's not changing the whole world, but it's lighting the corner where we are. And that is my challenge for all of us, boys, girls, moms, dads, those of you that are watching online. Please take that into your heart and remember what you have is the gift of brightening the corner where you are.